bless all of you. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for tuning in, and please like, subscribe, and share this. And you know what? While you're at it, give me a thumbs up, because this information will help someone. Prayerfully, it will help you. Today, I'm going to talk about a subject that I'm sure that you have some familiarity with, because these topics and situations have touched everybody. If not you currently, then maybe your family members, co-workers. Today's subject is, or topic is, on addiction, depression, sickness, and pain. Those, like I said, everybody is familiar with that. It's been a long time that I've been working with people who've been influenced by these areas. Actually, I was a senior pastor for 22 years. I just retired from that, but I still have a leadership office in the church. I was born and raised in New York City. My ministry started there. I talked about it in earlier videos, how I had a TV show. God started using me. That's what he calls me in New York City. But then he sent me to a place that I did not know. And that's quite often what God does. He sends you someplace that you are unfamiliar with, to a people that you are unfamiliar with too. When he sent me to this place called Waterbury, Connecticut, it absolutely was not a place that I ever prayed about or wanted to go. In fact, I was asking God to send me somewhere that was hot. And I happen to be in a place like that now. But I didn't want to go to Connecticut. That was going the opposite direction. That was sending me someplace that was very cold in the wintertime. But I went because obedience is better than sacrifice. I know sometimes we don't want to do things. And listen, as a Christian, I'm so proud to say I'm a Christian. I don't always want to do everything God says. I'm just like you. I'm no different than you are. I'm no better than you are. I just choose to be obedient because I know that when I'm obedient, not only do I please God, but all of the dreams and the goals and things that I want to accomplish, God will facilitate. He will open these doors and windows, places that I never would have known exist. He will unearth and bring up gifts and talents and abilities inside of me that I didn't even know existed. Go figure. Like when I wrote those 3 books that are international, never did I ever know that I could write a book, because after all, I grew up in a place where I was ostracized. I was unwanted. I was mistreated. So when you're mistreated and someone's constantly making you feel like you're not a part of, and for me, it was telling me that he was going to throw me, that my mother used to tell me that she thought about throwing me in the East River in New York City. You know, when you hear that frequently and you have siblings who are laughing and kind of throwing that in your face, you don't grow up with self-esteem. I didn't have self-esteem. I had very low to no self-esteem. And as a result of, I got myself involved with people and went to places I had no business being. I was in a lot of pain emotionally. And it didn't matter that I tried to tell that to my mother and my sister, because, you know, basically my sister laughed at me. And she was my big sister. She was the oldest. So I'm familiar with pain. I was picked on when I was a kid. I had really bad eczema on my arms and my neck, and you know, they called me names like alligator, and so did my siblings. Not my brother Paul, but my brother Joe and my sister. They laughed at my skin, you know. So I was rejected on the outside as well as in the inside. But enough about me, because I can tell you some things about me to tell you how familiar I am with pain and how I grew up feeling ugly for most of my young life. And when you don't feel good about yourself, you will gravitate toward people and places that are even more destructive. But you're looking for love in all the wrong places. But you know what? Nevertheless, I thank God that God had his arms around me. He didn't let me fall into, I could have fell into some really bad places, but he didn't let me. What I went through was enough. I went through a lot of pain. And if it wasn't mental pain, emotional pain, then it was physical pain in my body. I was a sickly child, born sickly. When your mama drinks and smokes cigarettes and parties and doesn't want to tells you that she never wanted you, she's not going to take care of herself the way that she should when she's pregnant, because she was angry at being pregnant again. Now, I held that anger against her all the way up until I was 30 years old, to the day that God told me, when are you going to forgive your mother? See, whenever you go to God for something, you want to change your life, I don't blame you. I believe that you should have everything that you ever desired, as long as it is in the plan for God. And you would be surprised how blessed God would make you, and how much, not only financially, but health-wise. In fact, in the Bible, he says there is no good thing that he would withhold from you. So if he says it and he doesn't keep his promise, then that would make him a liar. And one thing I know about God, he's not a liar. I have proven him. I have proven him on every area. Coming from somewhere, I was on welfare, living in the projects, I'm telling you, I made a covenant with him. I cut a deal with him. I'm going to just put it like that. And I kept my end of the deal. And he kept I kept getting more and more. He kept blessing me more. He kept giving me more. He moved me out of the project, gave me 2 houses in a matter of 3 years. 2 houses. 2 10-room houses in Waterbury, Connecticut. I had nothing, but he owns everything. The Bible says that all the gold and silver and the cattle upon 1,000 hills belong to him. So if I were you, I would put my trust in him. At the very least, I think that you should try him. I think that you should have a very fruitful, open, and honest conversation with him. I am in agreement with that. In fact, I support that you go and talk to him about everything. Keep talking and then put it in his hand and trust him to do or to bring into your life or to deliver you from what you need to be delivered from. I want to talk to you a little bit about addiction. I kept meeting men who had addiction problems. If it wasn't alcohol, one time I got involved with a guy who was an ex-addict, an ex-drug addict. And in fact, he was a heroin addict before he met me, but he was free. He wasn't on heroin anymore. And he told me that. You look at him, you really didn't really see it. However, during the time I was with him, he ended up getting back on heroin again. And so I got a good education from that. Now, I have never used any of those drugs, but I got out of the relationship with him. But I always wondered, why do I gravitate toward those people? Because part of my calling is to help them, get free. See, anybody who's addicted to something is enslaved to that thing. The Bible talks about yielding your members being your arms, legs, eyes. Those are called members in the Bible. And it says if you lend your members to something, you will be enslaved by that thing. Well, addiction Nobody comes into the world wanting to be an addict. Who? I don't know anybody. But I am not in agreement with AA. I'm in agreement. I like the fact that there is an AA, don't get me wrong, and an NA. But I know that those things can be destructive as well. First of all, you meet people in there who are on drugs, and if you befriend them and start hanging with them, sometimes that turns out to be even worse, create a worse problem than you had before. But I'll tell you what I'm in disagreement with. I don't like the fact that they call you a recovering addict or a recovering alcoholic. No. When God frees you, you are free. There's no recovering. When he delivers you from it, you are completely delivered. So I'm not in agreement with you constantly calling yourself recovering. No. There's still an association with it, and you need to disassociate yourself with it. Addiction is mean. It enslaves someone. It steals. It robs. The Bible says that the enemy comes but for to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus said, but I have come that you may have life and may have like it more abundantly. He wants you to have life and abundant life, not just exist because you all day long you're compelled and thinking about where your next high is going to come from. I came today to say something to you, but I'm going to say it before the end of this video. Same thing with depression. One of the people that are under me right now, she's been with me for these ladies that are currently my team. They're all ministers, such as myself, but two of them dealt with depression. One of them dealt with a really severe depression. When I met her, she was in her 40s and she was so severely depressed. She worked for the telephone company, Verizon. She'd worked for years for it, and she'd go to work, but what would happen is when that depression would hit her, when she would go into a state of depression, she would start, calling out sick, and it could go as long as 2 weeks that she didn't go to work. It was just God that kept her job for 20-something years. But when she joined the ministry and started coming to church, and she was put in a leadership position, she came to stay in my house, for a while. And I noticed that there were times that she couldn't come out of her room for days. She was that depressed. And I remember God telling me that he called her. And he told me the office that she was called to. And when I told her this, she believed me. More importantly, she believed God. She loved God. But up until the point that she met me, she hadn't really seen a lot of the power of God operating in her life. So there she was with me. She believed in God, and also that he called her to the ministry that I was overseer over, that I was the senior pastor for. So she lived in my house, and me and my secretary, Erica, we started praying and petitioning God for her to be delivered. And let me tell you what I told God. I said, God, you called this woman to be a leader in this ministry and in the household of faith. I said, God, she cannot be effective in the office that you called her, not when she can't come out of her room for 3 days and doesn't want to take a shower. She's not going to be effective, God. God had told me to tell her don't take the medicine because, they wanted her to take all the psychotropic medicine. And she felt like if she didn't take it, that she wasn't going to be suicidal, but she said, I'll be homicidal. Because she felt like she wanted to hurt. There was one particular person who really got on her nerves, and she was angry with her. But nevertheless, me and Erica, we bombarded heaven. And I just brought God, I just put him into remembrance of what he told me about her, how he called her, and how she needed to be set free from that depression. Can I tell you he did it? Here's a girl who was very unstable, very moody. You didn't know which person you was going to be getting on any particular day. But the day that he set her free, from that day to this day, and it's been, 14 years or more, she is vibrant. She's full of love. She's a loving person. She's a reliable person. But more important, she is free from depression. And you can be too. All you need to do is cut a covenant with God. But when you cut this covenant, you're going to have to do your part. And that also applies to anybody who's dealing with an addiction, dealing with sickness or pain. Because I'm going to tell you, all of them are enslaving. They will all steal time and precious moment and memories that you could be making with your family. There are people who they can't go to work. They want to work, but they're so sick and suffer with so much pain, and they're on pills. And I'm telling you, I used to take a lot of pills because I was full of pain, and God got me off all of them. Prayer and commitment. But more importantly, God remembered the covenant I set with him a long time ago now. I cut a covenant. I made a promise to him. I told him, God, if you will give me a house, I promise to serve you for the rest of my life. You know why I said that? Because I didn't have no other way. I didn't have good credit. I didn't have a job. And I couldn't foresee myself. I couldn't foresee in the future me having that and my children not living in the project without him. I needed him. And you're going to have to come to that same conclusion. If you've tried counseling, nothing wrong with counseling, but it doesn't work for everybody. If you've tried NA and AA, nothing wrong with it, but it does not work for everybody. If you have been sick and you're tired of sickness, if you're depressed and you're sick of it, you don't want to be on pills, going to the doctor's not helping you, going to the counselor's not helping you, I'm telling you, there is a solution, and you can be freed. You just got to be patient and go to God with your heart. Take all of them problems. Take all that pain, no matter what it is. You could have been someone who was molested. Take it to God. You could feel ugly. You could be addicted. You could be in severe pain. I'm talking to everybody. If you're somebody who's homeless and you're living under a bridge right now, you don't have to be homeless anymore. Just like there was a day when you wasn't homeless, there is a day where you could not be homeless. I have seen all these things. I've seen a woman come into, when I first opened my church in Waterbury, there was a woman who my secretary met on the bus. She was on her way going to the methadone program. And she would be so high off that methadone. And she invited her to church. She started coming to church. And her name was Vivian. And I'm telling you, she would be so high. She had her 2 kids with her. She'd be so high that, you know how when people are on methadone, they're nodding out. And she would look up every now and again and say, Pastor, I'm so sorry. She would be so sorry that she couldn't keep her head up. But I told her, don't worry about it, because God gonna free you from that. You're gonna be free from drug addiction and from addiction, period. And as I would preach, I would lay my hands on her shoulders. I would just touch her as I was going, because I was standing on the promise that God had told me he was gonna free her. Now, let me tell you what happened. It always goes, sometimes it goes from bad to worse. She stopped coming to church, but it's okay because she already got the promise of God. She met some people, started hanging with the wrong people. Ended up, she was boosting in a store, got caught, and going to jail, to prison. She stayed in jail, I think, a year. But when she came out, she never did drugs again. God freed her. Not only did he free her, but she had her children, and it's been years and years, and she's been free from heroin. How wonderful. See, God, you have to let him do this, because you can't do it yourself. If you could have did it, you'd have did it already. If you could free yourself from drugs, you would have did it. It doesn't matter what you did while you were on drugs. Please forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. If you ask God to forgive you, he will. He will. I don't care what you did. God will forgive you if you come with your heart and if you're sincere about wanting to serve God. I'm not asking you to be religious. I'm not asking you to say, Hail Mary, a bunch of Hail Marys, or to go to church 7 days a week. I'm asking you to consider having a relationship with God. I want to see you live and enjoy your life. You know why? Because God has filled me with so much of his love that I love everybody. Even people who've said things to me, I love my brother, I love my sisters. Because it's not my love. This is God's love that I'm loving people with. And I want you to be free from addiction, from depression. If you're depressed, I tell you what, those of you who are addicted or who are depressed or who are in pain, go to God and cut an agreement with him. Tell him that you will serve him in whatever capacity he wants you to. That means whatever he wants you to do, you're going to have to do it now. If you want to be free and you want to stay free. Because he will free you from this enslavement, because you can't serve with being enslaved. And once you find out how awesome he is and how much he's in love with you, when you find out how much he's got for you, you will say, why am I living below my means? Why am I letting this drug or this pain or this depression entrap me? And I'm in darkness and I don't know how to get out. Why? That's what you would say. I'm telling you, it's wonderful. I wanted to tell you about my shower curtains. I designed a shower curtain with God's promises on it. There's a shower curtain here that says, I am healed. And I'm going to put this in here so that you can see it. But if you want to see them, go to there's a link down. I'm going to put a link down in the description. It's www.relationshipwear.com. Those are shower curtains. These shower curtains were created to remind you of the powerful promises that God made. Let me say this, and I'm gonna get off of here. I'm gonna close with this. If God don't keep his promises, then you don't have to. If he is not telling the truth, then you don't have to serve him. But I'm telling you that he is. You just need to be patient. I don't care where you are, whether you're under the bridge, in a brothel, in your house, in the bathroom, in a shooting gallery, in the bar, in the whorehouse, in your house. If you hear this message, please take this step. And I'm telling you, if you're authentic and you mean it, and you just don't want to play with God to see if he's going to do it, because see, he can look in your heart. I can't. But if you're real about it, just keep talking to him. You're going to find yourself. You're going to be free. I'm telling you, you're going to be free. I love you. Have a blessed day. Bye.